Welcome to Kit Guru one and all. We are looking at a super budget friendly item from Razer, the Cynosa Lite keyboard with an RRP of $44.99. Now, Razer are not usually known for providing budget friendly items, so this will be an interesting review today as we look into what the Cynosa has to offer. Box-wise, we have the usual cardboard box with some key features on the top and on the sides. On the back, we have a little more information in regards to these features. Then there is the warranty and the RGB information. Of course, in typical Kit Guru fashion, we'll go into all this in greater detail later. As we open this one up, we are greeted with a semi-transparent note from Razer. Taking the keyboard out, we have the manual underneath, and inside the booklet I found some stickers. Yay! I love me some stickers, so I was really happy about that. And how does it look? So when I pulled the keyboard out of its packaging, I was kind of like, it was really bulky and it seemed massive. It really didn't have the best first impressions aesthetically, in my opinion. The keyboard housing is really chunky, as well as the keys being inset. This all kind of draws your attention to the fact that the whole thing is really chunky. The body has a matte mottled effect, which is a bit of a grease magnet if you have greasy hands, but to be honest, it would be worse if it was shiny, so this is a good design choice in my opinion. The underneath is pretty simple, which is fine. Again, this is a super cheap model, so we're not going to be seeing super amounts of detail, etc. There are 4 rubber pads to prevent from slipping and 2 flip out feet to add tilt. The RGBs on the keys are pretty dull. They don't even really fill the button at all, even with colour alone. However, the logo is really bright and it looks great. It is a shame that the same type of light doesn't run through the keys, but some of you do prefer a more understated RGB, so this could be a plus for you in that case. The cable came out of the box kinked and it still remains kinked. It is a generic rubber cable, and as you may know if you've watched my previous reviews on Kit Guru, I am not a fan of this type of cable at all. But again, being a budget friendly keyboard, I can understand the reasoning behind this choice. So how does it feel? Well, the keys are really spongy, to be honest. I personally really dislike spongy keys, but this is because they are Razer soft cushion gaming grade keys, which are membrane, but they are really quiet, which is a bonus if you don't like the clatter of usual mechanical keyboards. There are some rough edges, but not really where your hands are going to be, so you wouldn't notice. And again, we do have to be conscious how cheap this keyboard is. I mean, $44.99. Pretty cheap. Weight-wise, it feels pretty light, but it is weighing in at 904 grams. Using the Cynosa Lite, I quickly got used to the keys, and I did find that it was quite comfortable to type on, but I personally always use a wrist rest, and it definitely improved the comfort tenfold, so it might be worth considering one separately somewhere. Moving on to features, we have some pretty good specs here for such a cheap keyboard. We've got 10 key rollover, spill resistance, 1000 Hz polling rate, on the fly macro recording. I mean, a gaming keyboard with these specs is usually priced higher than $44.99. I believe this is really its selling point. This keyboard gets the job done and it does it quite well. This is not an ordinary office keyboard dressed up as a gaming keyboard. It really does walk the walk and talk the talk. There are some handy shortcuts that this keyboard has, such as full media coverage to skip forward and back, play, pause, and volume controls. You can control gaming mode with FN and F10. You can even put your PC into sleep mode with FN and pause break. This keyboard also works with Razer Chroma and Razer Synapse, which we will have a look at now. This is the first page of Synapse. You can program your keys here individually, or you can use Hypershift. You of course can program macros in the software, or use that on the fly macro recording by pressing FN and F9. There is a gaming mode which turns off certain buttons to prevent you exiting out of the game or doing something you don't want to do by accident. Next we have lighting options, and here you can also access Chroma. I have my own keyboard already plugged in, but we are looking at the keyboard on the right. Chroma gives you more advanced options and effects to play around with, or you can simply just turn them all off. I'd just like to add as well, the fact that the RGB are so dull is really disappointing. I know this is a cheap keyboard and I do totally understand that, but compared to any other keyboard that I've actually ever reviewed, this is probably the dullest LEDs that I've ever seen, or RGB. It's crazy. So it's really something to consider if you do like a bit of pop from your RGB. Okay guys, so bearing all that in mind, I did a little bit of gaming. I was a little bit apprehensive because obviously this is quite a cheap keyboard, but those specs do really hold up. So I was holding out for something really good. And to be quite honest with you, it really did perform well. There was no lag. I didn't feel that I was skidding anywhere off of the keys. So the key quality is really good and the texture is really good. I found that it was very responsive. My score was pretty good. Again, we can't put this entirely down to the keyboard. I think it's a little bit my skill as well, but it was really good. I really enjoyed using it, and I really feel that it would do a budget gamer proud because it does everything that you would want it to. So with all of that being said, let's go over a quick roundup with some pros and cons. So the price is obviously phenomenal. The weight I thought was pretty reasonable. It's got really quiet keys. Software is really useful and something you probably wouldn't find from a generic non-branded or small branded keyboard, because this software is actually developed with high-end keyboards in mind, so you get a lot of options there. RGB on the logos is really bright and it's really pretty, but the RGB, obviously, we'll touch on that later in the cons, but you know where I'm going with it. The specs of a high-end keyboard in this, regards to polling rate and the fact that it's got 10 key rollover, is a big plus for $44.99. A great range of shortcuts for such a low price keyboard as well. It's something you don't normally see. Cons, it is quite a grease prone material, so if you're eating or you touch your face or you wear makeup or anything, it's going to ruin it. The soft keys aren't my thing, the membrane keys, but it might be something you're not too fussed about. A few rough edges on the back and side of the keyboard, which does give it a bit of a cheap plasticky feel. I'm not a fan of the bulky design and the framing around the keyboard, and the fact that the keys are so inset, it kind of looks a bit chunky to me. The RGBs are pretty dull, as obviously I've mentioned all the way through this. It really pulls my heartstrings. So they don't really light up the key fully at all, so that's a little bit disappointing. The rubber cable kinks easily and it doesn't really look great. It is a bit cheap, but are these things that you could possibly look over? My conclusion is, with more pros than cons, I would say that this is a really decent piece of kit for the price. I mean, I wouldn't buy it, and it might not be something you guys will lust for, but if you consider that most gaming keyboards with this kind of spec could set you back anywhere £100 upwards, I think I can forgive the fact that the look and feel isn't exactly to my taste. It also means that you can reinvest that money that you saved into something that's going to make a real difference to your gaming experience. For instance, a slightly better graphics card or CPU could be an idea, which is great for someone who has a set budget as well. This keyboard has some serious spec for the price, and I really think that this has its place in the market as I've described above, but also it would be a great purchase for younger users to use with that spill resistance and cheap price. If they break it or something happens to it, it's not the end of the world. However, I wouldn't say it is the best keyboard I've seen for this price point, and if you check out our other budget keyboard reviews, let us know down in the comments where you think the Razer Cynosa Lite sits. Whilst you're down there, might as well hit that like and subscribe button, and if you haven't already checked it out, yes, that is our merch down there. It's definitely worth having a look at. If you need any more info about a product or need a fix of daily tech news, make sure to check out kitguru.net. And my name's Christina, this is Kit Guru, and I'll see you next time.